Um, yeah, it's interesting how some groups or bands are popular in some parts of the world. The
Mm.
the the modern talking is a sort of Central Eastern European thing where from everybody from Germany to the east knows
Yes,
that group
yes,
and their music, but everybody from Germany to the west has no idea who that is.
yes. Yes, of course.
So so
Mm.
that was one of the best experiences I had when I moved to Slovakia was the experience that everything was different. The culture was the food was different. The habits were different. The lifestyle was different. The culture was different. The music was different. The thinking was different. And this idea that culture is very much geographically related to certain parts of the world. What means something to people in one part of the world means nothing to people
Mhm.
somewhere else. They don't know about it. So, for example, you say the name of a Slovak politician. I don't know. Let's say somebody from history, like Vladimir Mečiar, right?
Mm.
It means something. It means something big in Slovakia. But you go to I don't know. You go to Belgium or Spain or Italy or Britain, and you say that name, it doesn't mean anything to
Mm.
anybody. The person is nothing.
Yes.
It's really interesting how quickly something that people think is very important becomes nothing
Mm.
when you cross the border. Um, and music is another part of that, where because we hold on to what we know. And
Mm.
I re- I remember one of the first things that I saw in Slovakia, first things that I remember seeing in Slovakia was some graffiti spray
Mm.
painted on a wall, which was Metallica was spray painted and graffiti on the wall.
Mm.
And I remember thinking, well, people know who Metallica is, so it can't be that bad. Uh, so some things are the same everywhere. Or
Yes.
yeah, the groups that you chose very interesting. It's an eclectic mix, right?
Mm.
You got rock and metal and pop and uh, it's a it's a nice cross mix there. Um,
Mm.
Also, I could strange little story. It's strange that you mention Alice Cooper Poison
Mhm.
because because that is like the classic Alice Cooper track, and the other songs maybe yes, maybe no, but that song is
Mhm.
really really good. Metallica was the first, I think the first tape I ever bought was the
Mhm.
Metallica Black album, and I bought it when I went with my parents on holiday one Christmas to where did we go? We went to Malta on holiday one
Mm.
Christmas,
Mhm.
and I bought that tape and I listened to it every day for a week, constantly on my headphones, every day for a week. And I remember being on the plane listening to it. It's a strange thing to remember. I remember being on the plane listening to it for the first time. And I remember it was interesting because it was the album was called Black, and the whole album cover was black. And I remember
Mhm.
that it just being really strange because it was all black. And
Mm.
what else? Erasure. Strange that you mentioned Erasure because I consider Erasure one of the best groups in pop music ever. Yeah,
Mm.
and it's a very strange group, but I always liked all of their songs. What was that song? Am I Right? There's a song called Am I Right? Am I Right? Am I Wrong? Am I Just Dreaming? Was the chorus. Wandering through the back roads, I feel the rain comes rushing down to dissolve your love for this man in his 20s, blah, blah, blah. I remember the lyrics. The really, really interesting song.
And
Yeah. The
it
Depeche
was,
Mode were bigger in Slovakia than they were in Britain, right?
yes.
Yeah, much
Oh.
bigger. In Britain, Depeche Mode is considered not a band of any importance whatsoever.
Oh,
So this is the cultural difference when you go from one country
interesting.
to another. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, because Depeche Mode is like the top of the top. Yeah, but if you, for example, if you go to America, it's like nobody cares about Depeche Mode in America. Nobody really cares in Britain
Mm.
about Depeche Mode. Um, they were bigger in other countries, and I think it's true in music that there will always be an audience because the world is so big. There will always be an audience for your music if you spread it out in the right
Mm.
places across the world. Of course, there's a lot of great music, and there's not enough time to listen to it all, I suppose. But yeah, the big bands at the time. Also, I have a story about New Kids on the Block, right? Because I I was never a big fan of New Kids on the Block, but pop music is pop music when you're a kid, and they had some they had some good songs. And when I lived in London many years ago, I lived with a tour manager because some of my background and connections is in music, and I lived with the tour manager for Elton John and Eric Clapton and some other artists. And he told me stories about a lot of the big concert tours and events. And one of the events he organized was the first concert in Britain for New Kids on the Block
Mhm.
when they came to Britain. And of course, they were the big teen group of the time. Yeah, the I don't know, the 60s had the Beatles, the 70s had, I don't know, with the Jackson 5, I don't know what was in the 70s.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and then the mid 80s had New Kids on the Block. And um, so they came to Britain to play their first concert. Big concert. It was I think it was Wembley Arena. It's big place in London. And sold out concert. They sold all the tickets. And 10 minutes before the start of the concert, remember New Kids had, like, there were five
Yes.
kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
10 minutes before the start of the first concert, there were only four.
Oh.
There were only four. They couldn't find the fifth member of the band. And this is because they were all taking drugs and doing weird things, right? They couldn't find the fifth member of the band. So what they did was they found someone who looked similar, and they put a hat on them, and they put him out on stage, and nobody knew. Nobody
Wow.
nobody said anything. There was no stories in the paper, nothing. Nothing. They put out on stage somebody who was not the right person, and nobody. He said nobody noticed. Nobody said anything. Everybody thought the concert was fantastic. And of course
Mm.
they weren't singing because it was all backing tracks and backing music,
Mhm.
so they weren't
Mhm.
really singing. Um, so it's an interesting story, I think. That
Of course.
there there's a lot of image in music, and I guess a lot of things that should be real that weren't real, like Bros. The British version of New Kids on the
Mhm.
Block was Bros,
Mhm.
and the singer could sing, but the other people couldn't play the instruments. Like the bass player couldn't play the bass, and the drummer couldn't play the drums.
Mm.
And
Bros was also known in Slovakia.
yeah, yeah, they were they,
Mm.
they they were they were a massive band.
Mm.
And there are always these pop culture bands that are presented, and they don't write their own music, and
Hmm.
some of them sing because they need to have some talent. They can probably sing and dance, but uh, they're products. The
Hmm.
group is a product.
Yes. Hmm.
It's just produced, and there are special schools. You know, the dance schools, the talent
Hmm.
schools, the music agencies that train these people from a very young age to to be to
To
be
be
lead.
superstar.
Yeah,
Mm.
to be superstars, to be leaders, to people who follow rules. They
Mm.
they never talk about any controversial subjects.
Mm.
They never give their opinion about politics. They always just talk about their music, and that's it, because because it's their job, and they're very well paid to do
Mm.
that as well. Uh,
Mm.
you can create a very nice lifestyle from writing a few good songs.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yes.
always always interesting. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, there's a production line. It's like a factory. Like music is like become factory produced almost in certain ways, and the quality of music on the radio is terrible anyway. So in general, but nice and interesting choices to listen to. I think it's nice to have a spectrum of music. It also depends what our parents listen to.